Hey, my name is Jason Nicholson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're a landlord, maybe this is good news. This is an indication on what's happening behind the scenes at the government regarding this EPC stuff. There's a war brewing between the Treasury, and I've got to check notes on the other name because it's a long one, the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, they are arguing on the fact that the EPC is a difficult thing for landlords to implement. And also they're saying that the costs are too high. They're saying the cap at 15 grand. What's going to happen here is it's just going to push too many landlords out of the market and there just won't be enough rental stock. So in this video, we're going to discuss what's going on, what's the likelihood of this happening. And this could be an indication that there is some arguments behind the scene, which is positive, and potentially some big delays in moving this forward. Now, if you're new around here and you haven't done already, do subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We've just hit 50,000 subscribers. And by subscribing, you get all the latest EPC news, house price news, interest rate news, renters' rights bill news, and much, much more. And let's get some views on this video. Your part simple. Smash like, tick or like, do something to that like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that's really helped the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that does that. So let's talk EPCs. This has now moved to the number one reason that landlords are leaving. So recent surveys, for the last year, the surveys all said it was the renters' rights bill. But most landlords weren't aware of this EPC stuff. And now more awareness is coming people are getting more awareness of this. So they know what's going on with the EPC. So EPC stands for Energy Performance Certificate. If you're a landlord, you can't rent out a property with having a valid one. I know that this week because one of my properties that I've just had vacant, the EPC just ran out in time. And so I can't let it at the moment. So I've got to get a new EPC next week. I've got a tenant waiting to move in, but I can't let it until I've got my EPC done, which is frustrating. And it's frustrating for the tenant as well. My fault, I didn't check the date on it. But the EPC rules are saying that by 2028, on new lets, that you've got to have an EPC of level C by 2028. That's on a new let. So that means if you get a new tenancy and someone moves in, you've got to get it to level C. Now, what about existing? Well, they're saying 2030, all of them have to be level C by 2030. And that's some task. There's lots of you on this channel that have said, well, my property, it just couldn't happen. It's not possible to get it to that level. I've got an old Victorian property and it's just not going to happen. What was interesting for me, the EPC that I'm talking about right now, that I'm getting done next week, that's a level E, and that property is the warmest property that I own. It's so warm, even when we were looking around it with a tenant, they were saying, it's actually quite warm. And I said, yeah, it is. This is the property that I lived in for 10 years, and I barely had the heating on in the winter. It's massive, thick stone walls. There's a flat that side, a flat that side, a flat at the back, a flat above, and a restaurant below. There's only one external wall. Now, all of the walls are insulated because we did a refurb and we wanted to get that up. And when the EPC assessor came round, he said, well, I can't prove that you've got insulation in there. And so he said that he didn't have it because I couldn't prove it, because I didn't take enough pictures at the time, because he didn't have this stuff back then, which was really frustrating. So now I've got to go through the process of making sure I prove that I got the insulation done. Hopefully that doesn't mean digging out bits of the wall. We'll see. So the EPC stuff is a farce, in my opinion. As some of you have said the same, I've got another property at the other end of Dorking where the flat above mine has had no work done because I actually used to rent that flat with a friend of mine. I own the flat below and the flat below that. Interestingly enough, Dorking's a small town. That's why all this sort of stuff happens, right? And so the flat above has had no work done on it. It was freezing cold. I used to live in there. And my flat down below, I did a full refurbishment on that property, and I took it back to brick, and we insulated it because this EPC stuff was out. The EPC surveyor came round, and the one above, where there's no insulation, has got a C. Mine got a D. It's ridiculous. So this stuff is a bit of a farce. So the government are saying you've got to get it up there, whatever happens. Now, some properties you can't get to that level. So what they're saying here is that you've got to spend £15,000 minimum to get that property there. And if you get 15 grand spent, you can then get an exemption certificate to say, look, you've done your best. But what the Treasury is saying here is this is too much money. And what would happen here is most landlords don't make enough money for that. Most landlords make, on average, according to the HMRC, £2,000 profit per year per property. 2 grand. So that's going to take a substantial amount of time to get that money back. And in that time, you've got the risk that your boiler breaks, something else breaks, you get a rental void. It only gets you 2 grand if everything goes well. And so this is a massive risk for landlords. And a lot of landlords are saying, I'll quit if this EPC stuff goes ahead. And so what's interesting to hear, and this is reported by the Times if you want to go and read the article on that, they're saying that the Treasury is at loggerheads now with the net zero guys. The net zero guys, it's just so easy, isn't it? We just say, look, you've got to get it to a level C, tough. But most properties are owned by owner-occupiers and they aren't having to get their property up. So yes, great, we'll have some that will be improving the environment and it will create jobs. But what you're saying is only certain people have to get their property to a level and others don't. Now, what are the saving expectations? They're saying that you will save, on average, £250 a year if you get your property to a level C. The energy costs would go down by £250 a year. You've got to spend 15 grand to get a £250 a year saving. That's bonkers. And what will happen here, which is always what's going to happen, is this 15 grand cost will ultimately get passed on to the tenant as higher rent. So rents will go up massively, and that will include a real shortage of properties that we've got that's already pushing up rents. And what you'll see here is tenants ultimately paying for this. Now, if you did a survey of your tenants and said, look, I can get this to a level C, your property will be warmer, you'll save £250 a year, but I need to put your rent up by 2 grand a year in order to start recouping some of that, I bet you most of them would not be interested in actually having this work done. If you're a tenant, I'd like to know what you think about that. If your landlord said, look, your rent's going up 2 grand, but it's going to save you 250 quid on your energy bill, would you be happy with that? Now, some of the other arguments that we've got here with the Treasury and the net zero team is that there needs to be more grants and more availability and a rollout plan for this so people know what to expect, the timelines, because right now you're saying 2028. This isn't law at the moment. And so no one's doing the work because we're all waiting for this to actually happen. Now, if this doesn't become law till the end of 2026, then you're only giving people really 12 months, 13, 14 months to get the work done. That's not likely to happen because this is hundreds of thousands of properties that need sorting out, maybe millions. Let me know what you think about this, but what's interesting is there is an argument, there is a debate happening now, there is some pushback by Labour against Labour. That's good, and that's what we want more of. We don't just want other parties arguing. If they're arguing amongst themselves, it's likely that it will slow down, and that's a good thing. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do like the video. Do grab our new ebook, Mortgage Secrets. Nearly 4,000 people have grabbed this now. This will help you get the best broker and get you all the off-market lenders, deals you don't know about. They're in here. It's in the description. It's in the first comment. Do check that out. Do check out all the other content as well on the channel, including this video right here.